everybody, welcome to Google I.O. and this chance to spend some time with Christina and Denise. We got to have some fun this week as we were kind of playing through these scenarios of how do we do more advanced things using agents to get software to production. I know a lot of this conference has been about how do you build.
Right.
And that gets all the glory. But how do you think about, I mean, obviously most of software's life is typically in production, not in the build phase. So as you were really even planning this session and thinking about it so much, what do you think was the unappreciated part of working with agents and dealing with the production side?
Well, the thing is, I feel like we talk too much about vibe coding these days, and right now it's really easy to get an application out. The problem is always after what you put it in on production, right? And that's when things goes wrong. And this is kind of why we really want to talk about day two. What happens if things starting to break? Right, Denise?
Yeah, and also that's always the harder part, right? It's easy to go and deploy something over to a cloud or wherever you want to deploy it, but just looking through logs, looking through performance stuff, that's all the stuff nobody actually wants to do.
Right, that's tedious.
I mean, even building a single app, you can do that pretty straightforward now with most of the tools we saw today, but as you've showed off even in the session, having to troubleshoot that, there's scale issues, there's security issues, reliability issues. Like the dimensions are actually much more, frankly, interesting on the day two side because there's so many things, even for a simple app, that can go sideways. What do you think on an agent app? What is that production grade dimension that maybe we sell short? Not we, Google, but we as an industry can look at and we don't appreciate the sort of complexity of that. Is there one that stands out to you, Christina?
Specifically tracking. So when things go wrong, right? This could be multiple symptoms, and then you get to the root cause.
Right.
And getting all the right symptoms in, and then do analysis, and then going back to figure out the root cause. And I don't think we're telling enough, like, how do we get all the symptoms, and how do we consolidate it, and how do we kind of analyze it together?
Versus jumping on the first symptom and not realizing you're not diagnosing the actual problem.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of the things that we are always missing is just the fact that you can get all the data to you easily just by using one tool. And, one of the things that we all hate is, all right, I got to go grab my logs. I got to go download the logs. And then I have to go and open these logs that I really, really don't want to look at. And just being able to get everything. And by doing that, these agents can actually get the better root causes. And sometimes it's not just one root cause. Yeah. It's multiple root causes. And by having all the data all together, that's going to allow us to do a better job. And I think we always forget that it's not just only for vibe coding. It could be for debugging.
Right. I mean, and on that debugging point, one of the first things you showed off when we had our session yesterday was, taking a local environment. I don't think you jumped really very much to the actual cloud interfaces or things like that. Instead, you kind of took a loaded environment of your local environment and you pulled all that to you. How were you pulling production information, logs, information, metrics? How are you pulling that into your local environment? Is that easy? Is that hard?
I mean, we have all those MCPs available for us, and that allows us to securely go and connect our agent with our cloud and all the data and services that we have. And I think a lot of people are worried about, from a security perspective, is this stuff going to be some random place or what's going to happen to it? And just the ability to go and configure a couple MCPs, and now with Google's managed MCPs, we don't have to really worry about it because we could just go and configure a whole bunch of it and just be able to get everything that we need.
And what I like about Google's MCP server is how comprehensive they are. Because if you think about all the systems you're trying to get from the cloud, you want to see the whole picture, right? So not having maybe a single access to a single component is not enough, right? So you want to get able to access everything and getting all this in. That's why you need all that. And I think Google Cloud MCP Server makes it easy for your local agents to analyze it.
You were plugging it into Antigravity, and now for the people watching, were you just doing some wizard-like prompts to make sure it used the MCP correctly to pull all the right logs? What's a prompt that you were sending in that was taking, a running system and pulling all the right information? Was it magic?
Not magic at all, and as you saw, it was actually very, very basic. But the fact that we have it configured, and it's not like it was even that hard to configure it, especially with Antigravity and for Antigravity and Google MCPs, it's literally a click of a couple buttons, and then you're good to go. And so it just knows, because
You spoke your prompt, right? Remind me, what was your prompt? Do you remember?
It was like, find out what's wrong with my DynaQuest app. Like,
So
and that's it.
That was it.
That was
just
it.
told it to look out what's wrong with my Cloud Run services, and it will just go look for the DynaQuest service.
Yeah, because it probably just kind of like, okay, if you're asking me about a service, it's probably going to be in a Cloud Run. It probably used a Cloud Run MCP and looked through the services, and we called it DynaQuest. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're going to have to name it roughly the same. You can't be like DynaQuest and your service is named like, I don't know, a dog or a cat or something like that. But
do you feel like, some of this, what would you have done before? Would you have to do some complex, even log analytics SQL query? Like, we're just using natural language. You were literally hitting the microphone and talking into it.
Yeah.
What were you going to do before? You were going to do just complex SQL queries or just scrolling through data? Like, what's a year ago?
First of all, we need to navigate the console first, right?
True.
Figuring out where they are, because console gets a little complex especially for the new users. If you're not used to
familiar,
like a cloud environment, it could be very intimidating sometimes for me. And being able to find out where the service is hiding, and then finding out where they are, going to the logs, looking at the metrics, and looking into the error logs, trying to map all the pieces together. That's what we have to do before.
And what you were showing, of course, is that usually if this happens in real life, not just on stage in front of hundreds of people or thousands online, is there's an urgency to this. And if you're stressed out and trying to figure out, is this even the right service and this and that, but you were all doing this on stage live. I don't know, I think we can miss when you need to find a root cause and fix a problem. We don't have time to just go down a bunch of false trails.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that's really, really cool about this is being able to attach your code to your symptoms. Right. So to be able to find the root cause. So now the agent has ability to access your code and then look at the problem, go find the problem, figure out what's wrong. Right. So that's something that was not able to do before because you have two groups of people: the SREs who has no idea what the code writes, and the people that writes the code and has no idea like how things are running in the production. So bringing the two worlds together is awesome.
And I mean, plus usually when you have to debug, everything has to be in serial because like you're gonna go, all right, let me go look at this first. All right, it's not that. Let me go look at the next thing. And it's gonna take a while to get through. And what if it's the last thing that you thought of?
As it usually is. So you built on that and then said, like, look, many times the first thing we build is not always the right thing or even the optimized thing. So you really jumped into an optimization phase here, going like, all right, the app crashes, or even if it just doesn't scale the way we want. How do you think about agentic ways to, first off, even figure out what I should be looking at? Because sometimes the app isn't even broken. You're just like, maybe there is a security assessment I should do or others. So how do you think about optimization with agents, both proactively, like nothing's even absolutely wrong right now, or then reactively, like something broke? How do you approach the optimization consideration?
I mean, we really have to think about a lot of things that you always want to, we use data for everything, but before we didn't want to use data because it's such a pain to go and get all of that.
Right.
And so now that we can easily get the data, we can go and create agents that will just run in the background to be able to go and feed you information of things that can be possible to optimize it. If you're running things and then it's like, oh, all of a sudden your CPU looks like it's shooting up, we can have a Slack notification that lets you know. And something that you wouldn't even normally be monitoring because you don't really have time for that.
Another type of optimization is your app itself. So how do I learn the user behavior, right? Before, a lot of the times what we did is I would plan a bunch of logs in my application, and then what I would have to do is download the entire log, write a bunch of ETL pipelines, extract them, put them into BigQuery data warehouse, and do another analysis on top of that. So,
that's a lot. That's intimidating. I mean, you were showing off the data toolkit, the agent toolkit for. I mean, I don't know. I was seeing things in there. I know when you were using it, you realized like this is really up-leveling. Like this is doing some stuff that would be intimidating, frankly, even just really hard to do with certain skill sets, and we're just doing it.
Yeah. Nobody, like I said yesterday, nobody remembers all their SQL queries.
I mean,
it's
too much.
And just looking at the amount of queries that it did.
And not just SQL, and also BigQuery SQL as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
it's just so many, and if you really went down to the details of what the agent did, I think there was at least like 7 or 8 queries that it ran, maybe even more than that.
And not only that, we also set up the infrastructure to get it done, right? Before we had to actually download the log, But now we're streaming the log directly into BigQuery and then analyze it. And it's all done by agent, right? If it's me, I probably have to learn all the components in BigQuery to learn it. But now the agent just tells me.
It just does it. On that optimization front, have you found that you need to treat the agents, because again, you could finish vibe coding an app or even doing real engineering. Have you built habits for yourself of even being at the end of it going, hey, tell me what's wrong with this, or find security problems? That's a step we have to, I think, we have to do ourselves sometimes, because the software of us might say you reached your goal, the system works. So do you find yourself getting into a habit of pausing and saying, try to find problems with this thing? Should we, our own audience, be more adversarial with these agents to try to break the things that the agent's building? How do you think about that, Christina?
So I do have to write some scales because I understand my application a little bit better. So there is a way that combining with the user knowledge and also my own knowledge, and this is what you saw during our demo, is that I like to give more context to the agents, right? So that's how I deal with the skills. And that's how we generate the report of giving it more kind of knowledge of how this thing operates and what kind of information I want to know comes back to your question about optimizing your application. Right?
Yeah, how do you think about kind of forcing a revisiting of the architecture and the application and the decisions?
Yeah, I always, nowadays at the end, it's like you think that you're ready and you're good, and it's always like, hey, can you go in and just see if there's any optimizations or refactoring that needs to be done? And sometimes I take what they want, that they suggest. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just take a small piece of it. Yeah. But it's always good to know because, especially when you write some complex thing and your app is pretty large, you're not going to remember every little bit and piece that you're going to do. So it's nice to do that, plus checking to make sure that there's no security risk and everything, because you're not going to remember everything. And so it's nice for somebody to just go scan through and just making sure. And you don't always have to take the input, especially when we do have that whole human in the loop, being able to see what are the changes and just accepting certain pieces of it.
Now you were building kind of at the final demo this autonomous system where, hey, you're able to read information, agents can talk to each other through A to A, they can kind of remediate. And they put you in the loop at the end going, hey, do you want to approve this change or this change? But we were talking about this before we jumped on here, but as we move to a more, agent-centric, even autonomous cloud, what's that mean to the developer, the engineer? Where does their work move to? Because it's not the same. There might not be slinging every line of code. They might not even need to know all the details of every cloud service that they're using. What's that look like? What's that? How should a developer start getting ready for that universe?
I think you have to elevate yourself, not just being. I think before a lot of the knowledge has been segmented in different areas. So we, as a human, because we need time to learn a lot of the knowledge. So that's why they're segmented. But now we have AI doing a lot of the detailed work for us, and it has a lot more knowledge than we do. Sure. We have to elevate ourselves, becoming a more full stack, an architect level person to tell AI what to do and my intent.
You're almost doing product engineering, but how do you think about what is that role of the developer?
Yeah, I think, everybody's afraid AI is going to take over my job, but ultimately we need to build the knowledge to be able for the AI to learn this stuff. And ultimately, I think that it has actually made it where us as developers can do more, because before, developers used to be like, all right, I built the code, here you go, infra, you go and help me deploy, you help me go and monitor all of that stuff. But it also makes it where you don't understand the product from a performance issue. Now you have to worry about all of that because now it's part of your problem. And so when you used to toss it over to the other side, you don't worry about those things. And I think that it actually is making people become a better developer because they have to be a full stack developer.
It's a little scarier now, but let's say thank everybody for calling in here. This was some things we can do. Add MCPs to your dev environments. You can access production data. Add some of these toolkits in pieces so that you can actually do some advanced things and keep stretching your career by trying some of these new domains. So thank you for the time.